Chat. We got another reaction video, bro. We got everything you missed in the college football 26 review trailer by yours truly, Eric Rayweather, bro. Hey, if y'all not subscribed to this nigga, bro, y'all gotta go subscribe, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Videos fire all day.
Anticipated trailer for College
I'm gonna make
Football
sure my audio
26
right,
dropped a
though.
few days ago. I'm finally home from Orlando, so let's take a closer look at the trailer. Let's point out some specifics, and as the days go on, we're going to be able to talk a lot more about this game. They did kind of tell us to not get too specific on some of the things we saw just yet, because they kind of want us to wait for the deep dives.
So he's already played the game. Now, Bordeaux. Shout out to Bordeaux and shout out to them leakers. The leakers who don't give a fuck about what they say. Bordeaux said that college football 26 makes 25 unplayable. If that is true and they stand on business about that, bro, oh my gosh. Chat, it's going to be a lot of abandoned motherfuckers through here.
However, I've seen writers putting stuff out. There's even been some people that have tweeted stuff. So I will comment on some little things that people have put out. I just tend to try to listen. I don't want to speak on things if they don't want me to speak on them just yet. But just know that pretty much every week leading up to this game, and even Madden for that fact, if you're interested in Madden, there's going to be pretty much a deep dive like every week on a different part of either of those games. So we're going to have a lot of info to be covering over the next month to 2 months. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe with the bell icon on so you don't miss those important updates, because we're going to be getting a ton of it flooding, pretty much daily at this point. Also, another thing that was just surprisingly revealed on Twitter a few days ago is not only is there going to be a beta for Madden, which we did expect, although we haven't seen any signups for it yet, there's also going to be a beta for College 26, which I was not expecting. Apparently, some of the VIP people for both games, I don't really know what VIP means. I guess maybe people that have just spent a lot of time on the game. I don't know. People have been posting emails saying that they are eligible for the beta for College and Madden 26. It said, keep an eye on your inbox when the betas start and get ready to hit the field early. So definitely be checking your emails pretty soon, because a College 26 beta is going to be coming sometime soon. I'm not sure if they're going to give me copies to give away. Usually with betas they do. So if you want to follow me on my social medias on screen, if I do get them to give away, that's where I will be doing it. That is the easiest place for me to do it. I'm not guaranteeing that I will get it. In the past, usually I do, so I'll try to get you guys some copies if I can, but I don't think this is a situation where there's going to be a sign up. It doesn't appear that way. It just appears that they're going to be giving them to people that have maybe just played the game a lot and maybe giving some away, if I had to guess. So let's take a look at the trailer. Obviously, the first thing you kind of saw in the trailer and throughout are the light shows, the drone shows for home team. So they just added a little bit more presentation there. Nothing really crazy, but any little bit of presentation that they're going to tack onto the game, every year adding a little bit more here and there. I think all of us will take that. It just makes the game better and better each time, adding those little details onto the game. Now, when they had Clemson running off the bus, ironically, I saw a lot of people thinking this was stupid because they said, well, players don't get off the bus in full pads. Well, Clemson does before.
Zay, what's good?
What up? I am recording a video right now, so I'm gonna go on deafen real quick and finish recording, and I'll be back.
Oh, my bad.
Now you smooth.
For the game. This is a Clemson thing, and they're a pretty big team, so just thought that was kind of funny, but, that is a real thing they do. Another thing that they kind of focused on in this trailer is you see, real coaches and stuff like that. We know that they're going to be in the game. Now, one thing I do know is that it's not going to be every single coach, but that's just simply because some coaches don't want to be in the game. I think most of them are, because they even said on their site they have over 300, and that's going to include, I'm guessing, coordinators and stuff like that as well, because there's only 136 teams, so do the math. But just as an example, Bill Belichick was never in Madden. He never wanted to be, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in this game either. I don't know why he would change his mind all of a sudden. So most of the coaches should be there, but there's always those few that just don't want to be in the game or don't want to work with EA for whatever reason. Another thing I saw people note at parts of the video is it looks like the spats on the cleats are not as crazy as they had been in years past. They tend to be pretty thick on the cleats, and a lot of people don't like that. So it looks like maybe they've added some slimmer options there. But as far as equipment goes, I will say I didn't really notice a lot of new equipment in the trailer. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be some there, but just nothing that really stood out to me, like hanging mouthpieces, for example. We also got a glimpse at some high school that we know is going to be in the game. We're seeing, kind of a generic stadium, which I also think that could mean we can get some generic stadiums now for Team Builder, which would be pretty cool. Definitely want a stadium creator at some point, but I think at least generic is better than having to use other school stadiums, which we had to do last year. And it seems like on this trailer, much like last year, they did focus on a lot of the pregame and traditions. So what we're kind of seeing here, maybe if this is your first year playing or you didn't notice some of this last year, they definitely added more like signature runouts for teams, because last year they had a bunch for the big teams, but there were others that were still a little generic. So you could see more runouts, more mascots that weren't in the game last year. So you're seeing like the Texas Tech run out. You're also seeing more band formations on the field. Now, I know that Ohio State had it last year. I don't really think any other team had it, not that I can remember, but
Ohio State hold the most score in college football right now.
you notice in the trailer they're showing some more of that, and I think they even mentioned that on their site. So expect to see a lot more involvement from the band, seeing those different band formations, whether it's, at halftime or whatever the case may be, maybe before the game, depending on how they do it. Obviously, Enter Sandman was in the trailer, so I mean that's a pretty big get. We wanted that last year. We know we had it this year. I think they even also mentioned it on their site. But expect other music in the game this year, quite a bit more. Last year, I think they had like maybe 4 to 5 licensed songs, which was cool. I mean, I'll take anything we can get in that department, because I know that licensing music is not always easy. Sometimes certain artists or bands just want way too much money. Sometimes it's just a thing where they don't want to be involved. Sometimes, some bands and artists just don't license their music out as much. But it looks like this year we got a lot more. In fact, somebody put out some information on this, and I didn't really want to speak on it because I thought this was like kind of like more of a big surprise thing, but I've seen multiple people now put this info out, so it's really not news anymore. But in one article it said, speaking of real songs, Enter Sandman for Virginia Tech was the big one as evident in the trailer, but it also added Mr. Brightside at Michigan, Seven Nation
Michigan.
Army, Fiend by Travis Scott, I'm Shipping Up to Boston at Notre Dame, and 2001 A Space Odyssey for South Carolina's intro, among others. So I think there are even more than this that were added to the game, and I believe like the bands and stuff like that will also be playing along these songs at times, so it might not be like the song itself, but it's the band version of the song in some situations, and the crowd will sing along to it. So I mean, just kind of upping the presentation. We're seeing like some of that displayed in the trailer, but some people have put that info out. I think people will be excited for that, because it's just, if you're a fan of Michigan and you hear Mr. Brightside, I mean, how does that not get you hyped? Like, that's how it feels when you go to the game. So cool that they're adding more of that into the game, because that was maybe one area where we thought, hey, maybe we can get some more of these songs and things over the years. I did notice also like a decent little bit of military stuff shown in the trailer. So, we had some involvement with that last year. Maybe they're hinting here at some more involvement with that this year, because they kind of made it, a decent little part of the trailer in some spots. Obviously, we got to look at some of the mascots that are now in the game again, more new runouts that we're seeing. So, like to see that. Now, then we get to some gameplay stuff. And one thing I've realized with EA over the years is when they're showing you something in the trailer, it's something they want you to pay attention to. And sometimes things can just look like the same from last year, or it could look like just another animation that they're just kind of throwing in there. Maybe one that you think you've seen before, maybe one that you even have seen before. But a lot of times, or especially with college the last couple of years, when they're showing you certain clips, to me, that means they want you to focus on what this actually means. So when you see Bryce Underwood break, this tackle behind the line of scrimmage, when he spins out of it, it's one of two things. It's either just a canned animation, like a scripted animation that plays at random, or it's something you can actually do. And when it comes to the college team especially, if they're showing you something, I'm kind of repeating myself a bit here, but if they're showing you this, probably means that it's something you can actually do yourself. So we know in the past you've been able to have ball carrier moves behind the line of scrimmage. Some years they put it in, some years they've taken it out because they try to change the system up a little bit, and either that or people just weren't using it. But if I'm looking at this, I'm saying that's something they want us to see. And then immediately you go into the catch. Not sure if that's a new catch animation completely, but they show him reaching out for the pylon. There's also another clip or two in here where they're showing a player reach out the ball. That's something you can do in the game. It's triggered automatically, but they're showing it quite often in this trailer for the limited gameplay clips that they show. Probably something to pay attention to. What could that mean? If it's already a canned animation in the game, why are they showing it multiple times? Think about what that could possibly mean. So now we're moving on. You're seeing a lot of hits. We do know that they kind of added the physics system to the game. They said it on their site. Boom Tech and Madden last year, there were good parts of it. There were parts that were still a little janky. And I've covered EA for so many years now, and one thing that's always been evident, anytime they do anything big with gameplay, whether it be physics, it's a throwing system, a movement system, always better in year 2, always way better in year 2. Year 1, it'll be okay, maybe it'll be awful, but it's usually never great in year 1. It's usually kind of the beginning stages. Year 2, it's always way more polished. So a good time for it to come to college is in year 2, because it's definitely going to be a lot more polished. And I don't think it's exactly one-to-one to how it was in Madden. There's definitely some tweaks to it there, but that's why they're kind of showing some of the big hits and the tackles in the trailer. Another thing we saw a lot of in this trailer was turnover celebrations. Now, we had a decent amount of those in the game last year, but just judging off the trailer, it looks like they added a ton of new ones. We see Rice, we see Georgia, the unique one here for Arizona where they stab the ball after the turnover. So they take the ball from you and they stab the ball. They pretty much kill it like it's theirs now. And you'll notice when they're doing their celebration here, there's 2 balls on the sword and they're stabbing the third one, and that's something that's unique to what they do. Every time they get a turnover, they just kind of add the ball onto the sword. So I think probably maybe the most unique turnover celebration in college football, and that's now in the game along with a bunch of others. So like I said, last year we had a decent amount, but they've added more on this year, which is pretty cool. Then they're showing some more Arch Manning gameplay, of course. They're showing some new plays, which I assume they're new plays because they've added, I don't know, over 2,700 new plays to the game. So they're kind of just showing us a little glimpse of it there, but kind of one of those things, it doesn't really mean much until you play yourself because you can't even really see what the full play even is. But they're definitely just kind of showing you some of that with the motion, showing more tackles, more reaching out again for the ball, showing some DB play. They did mention that defense would be improved for the DB play this year, that they would attack the ball more if their eyes are on it. So they're showing the best safety in college football doing just that. And here was one of the more interesting things in the trailer, because we didn't have this last year, when they're showing the QB here kind of grabbing at his shoulder, winding it up. And they also mentioned on the site that wear and tear is going to be, even bigger this year than it was last year. To me, this looks like wear and tear actual animations now, which I think is super cool, because wear and tear as a system, I think, is a great thing that they added to the game. That's something that football games had been missing because it's such a real component to real life. But now if they're adding animations to that, so say your QB's shoulder's hurting, or you have a running QB and he tweaks his ankle and he's kind of kicking around his ankle a little bit, or same for a receiver moving certain body parts, or a running back moving certain body parts. That's cool, because not only is wear and tear an actual thing, but you're visually seeing it on the field now. You're seeing players, kind of playing through that pain, which is cool. Another shot that is, I think, super important is when they show this broadcast cam and you're seeing the Oregon players and how they're moving around and all this stuff. That was something that was added to Madden last year, and it makes the game look so much more realistic. And I was like, why isn't this in college? I thought that was kind of weird that they added it to only Madden. So when you're playing the game now, whether you're watching from the side or you're just using the regular Madden cam that you normally use, you're going to see the players pre-play talking to each other on defense, moving their hands, doing hand signals. You're going to see, cornerbacks starting to kind of drift back a little bit into their stance or come up into their stance if they're pressing. Pre-play, you're seeing them communicate and move around. And honestly, a small thing that just makes the game look more realistic, because typically they just kind of break the huddle and just stand completely still. And it's not something that really matters until you see it done the other way and you realize, oh, this looks so much cleaner. This actually looks like, more like I'm watching a real game. So glad that they have added that. If you didn't play Madden, this is something you're unfamiliar with, but this was in Madden. Glad to see that they added to the game.
Okay, but this in Madden is also oddly bad, because if he's talking, like if your corner's doing this little hand movements, and Madden play, I won't say real, but Madden players know it. If your corner's doing the hand movements and you press, he starts doing 360s and he goes off sides, or he might hit the wide receiver and get a flag, and like 4th and 4 with the game on the line, you don't want that happening. So if they can fix that, bro, I wouldn't have no problem.
Here's another one, the coaches, right? So we talked about coaches being in the game, but notice what they're wearing. All the coaches were pretty generic in both Madden and college. They would just kind of all wear the same things or one of two things, and that was a big talking point, was why don't the coaches, wear what they wear in real life? Obviously, we didn't have the real coaches in college, but still, you could still have the generic ones kind of mimic those coaches a little better, or just for your own created coaches. Why don't we have more gear? Well, just look at the trailer, look what coaches are wearing, and, just think about that for a second. Might be a lot more coach customization this year. And then it just kind of ends off with the cover boys doing some crazy plays, some new animations. They're also showing a lot of trophies. Remember that last year, all the physical rivalry trophies were not in the game. We're seeing some of them here. We're going to probably have a lot more trophies in the game, and we do know Trophy Case is actually in the game as well, so I think that's kind of a double play right there. We're going to be having a ton of info coming. It's going to be a ridiculous amount that's going to be flooding very soon for both games, so you're not...
Now, when a nigga's gatekeeping info. He's gatekeeping info. That's why this video was so dry. He knows something that is a make or break. You feel me? And he has to wait. He really wants to spoil that shit now, but he has to wait. But when they do drop the deep dive, I will be back at Eric Ray Weather's channel, like I said at first. Go sub, bro. He is the leak. Nah, I ain't gonna say the leak, but he is the news god, bro. Hey, I stopped tapped in. Link in the description. Y'all fuck with me.